Hey guys, welcome back to Traffic Jam with Cam. I'm Cameron, and you can call me Cam. I am thinking this week I need to give a little background on that. My name is Cameron, and I usually do go by Cameron. I introduce myself as Cameron. I write Cameron as my signature, and mostly only my family and my really close friends call me Cam. So, since I know we're going to be real tight, that's why you can call me Cam. For this week's episode, we are going to be talking about dental hygiene school. But before we get into the episode, I will give a quick update. If you listened to the episode last week, you heard that I was struggling with the bugs in my apartment. And good news, the bug guy came yesterday. Hallelujah. He used his fancy spray machine and sprayed all the rooms in our house, and he also gave us new traps to put out, so hopefully that solves our problem. We were taking out the old traps after the bug guy left, and I was too terrified to grab them, so Adam picked them up. And from a very far distance, I looked inside and saw how many spiders there were. And I just got the goosebumps all over again. So if you want to see those pictures, head to the Traffic Jam Podcast Instagram page and you will see the pictures there of the nasty traps on a highlight. So you can definitely check that out if you want to be creeped out or if you're just interested. Another update that I have is a sad update. Still no dental hygiene license. I don't know what the Virginia Board of Dentistry is doing, but they are taking a very long time to approve my dental hygiene license. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but at this point, all of my Idaho dental hygiene friends and classmates have gotten their license and they've started working. Some of them have already done a full week of work, and I'm very jealous. I'm so eager and excited to get started, and I just wish that the board of dentistry would hurry up and get me my license, because now it has been 4 weeks since I turned in all my paperwork, since I sent my transcript, my clinical exam scores, my written exam scores, and crickets. I don't know what's going on over there, but I have sent a few emails just asking different questions about, do I need this paperwork? Do you want me to send this paperwork also? Never heard anything back. I called the phone number that they posted on the application website, and it went straight to an automated message saying that they didn't have anyone in the actual office and that everyone was working remotely from home, so please be patient. And that was 3 weeks ago, and my patience is running low just because I am so ready to go. I have gotten this job. I accepted a job at that dental hygiene office, and they're asking, hello, do you have your license yet? When are you going to start? We need to start scheduling you patients. And that's stressing me out a little bit. So fingers crossed. I refresh and check the page every day, and it still says pending. So yeah, that's really taking a long time. And I'm just ready to get going. As soon as that page says that my license is approved, they should automatically send me a number. So there's like a license number that you have. And once you have that number, you're good to go. You can practice. You can do the full extent of what dental hygienists can do. You don't have to wait for your paper copy of your license, which is really nice. So I can show that I have my number, and then I don't know how long after I am assigned my license number that I'll receive my physical copy of my license in the mail. But I don't have to wait for that to come in the mail. I just have to wait to get the license number on the application page. So I really hope that happens soon. Everybody cross your fingers. I am really pumped to get this career going. I've been waiting for 2 months, well, almost 3 months actually, since I graduated. I graduated at the end of April, and so now it's been all of May, all of June, and halfway through July since I've graduated that I haven't gone to start working yet. We need another piece of exciting news here. A couple days ago, Adam and I went to go try the peach milkshake from Chick-fil-A. I feel like I've heard some hype about it, and Adam loves peach flavor like no other. And I usually do too. I really like fresh peaches, and sometimes I really do like the flavor, but sometimes I don't. I was willing to give this a shot though, because I don't know how we just recently discovered, maybe a couple months ago, the frosted lemonade at Chick-fil-A. I'm not a big Chick-fil-A girl at first. I was very hesitant to get on the bandwagon, but I don't mind their chicken nuggets and I don't mind their frosted lemonade. That would probably be the number one thing on my Chick-fil-A list is frosted lemonade. Probably just get that every time. It's pretty dang good. So I had some confidence in this peach milkshake. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it wasn't terrible. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It was very creamy. I just didn't like the chunks. There were like actual peach chunks in it. And that wasn't my favorite thing ever. Adam loved it. He's a big fan. The traffic jam of the week this week. Let me tell you, it's a good one. You cannot go to one single grocery store and find everything that you need for a reasonable price here in DC, Northern Virginia. And that is such a letdown to me. I'm not used to that. In Idaho, as you probably heard from the last episode, I love Winco. I love Winco with all my heart. There should be Wincos everywhere. The saddest realization about moving here was realizing that there is no Winco in sight. And I remember hearing that it's like a Western thing, but I didn't know it was that far west, because I'm pretty sure the closest Winco to us right now is in Texas or something, and that's heartbreaking. I love that place. Anyway, no Winco here. And the closest Walmart is like 30 minutes away, and that's with no traffic. So it just takes so long to get there. I tried to go once and it just took forever. I used to do Walmart pickup all the time in Idaho. And so since that's not really an option anymore, we've had to resort to finding which grocery store we like here in Virginia. And they're just like, they have like the weirdest names. I don't really like any of them. There's a store called Aldi that is probably the closest to Winco prices, so I go there pretty often. They have super cheap stuff, but they do the weirdest thing. You have to like put a quarter into the cart to rent your cart. And there's just like, the store is not organized. They have just like such a random assortment of things. So you definitely can't find everything that you need there. They have like the really basic foods for a super cheap price, but they're definitely not the best quality, and it's hit and miss. There's another store that's really close to our place, just like a couple blocks away, so you could totally walk there. It's called Giant. And it's kind of like Albertsons maybe, but not very nice and not good produce. Kind of expensive. I can't really ever figure out where things are. So yeah, don't like that one. Oh, one more reason why I don't like Giant is because if you go and walk there, then you can go in through the front entrance, and the walkway up into the store is kind of pretty and there's lights and it's in like a safe-ish looking place. But if you drive there, you have to go into a parking garage and get a ticket, and you have to go up an elevator to get into the store. And the parking garage and the elevator are so creepy. They're dirty, and it always feels like someone's just going to jump out at you. So I'm always terrified when I go up in that elevator, and I just press the button over and over so that the doors will shut so nobody jumps in with me. So don't like that. Another grocery store that's here is called Harris Teeter. Why would you name a place Harris Teeter? A grocery store? That does not sound like a grocery store name. But I don't know what kind of name that is, because what else besides a grocery store would you name Harris Teeter? Like a restaurant, a clothes store, a tire shop. Where did that come from? I don't know who Harris Teeter is, but he has a weird name. And this grocery store is really fancy. It feels like super safe. It's really clean. It's really nice inside, and you pretty much can find everything there. It's just way expensive. So I like to go there sometimes if I'm looking for really specific stuff. But yeah, most of the time that's not the place to go. There is Target, which is what I probably do the most. It's like a super Target that we have here. Well, there's tons of Targets, but the one that I usually go to has like a whole grocery area inside, and it's pretty limited, but you can find some basic stuff there that's like not as cheap and bad quality as Aldi, but not as expensive as Harris Teeter or Giant. So usually that's a good in between if you get the Target brand, and that's mostly what I've been doing. But I just hate that I have to make a bunch of trips to like all 4 of these grocery stores to get everything that I need. I just want to go to one place. I want to go to Walmart, or I want to just go to Winco and get all of my things instead of having to drive all over town with the angry Virginia drivers. And yeah, that's just the last thing I want to do. So, traffic jam of the week, multiple grocery stores, none of my favorites. It's a letdown. So, on to today's topic. Today, I'm going to talk about my dental hygiene school experience. First of all, people always ask me, have you always wanted to be a dental hygienist? And the answer is totally yes. So, I first became interested in dentistry when I was in middle school. I had braces. I got braces like the summer before 6th grade. And I had them all the way until the end of 8th grade. So I was in braces all 3 years of middle school. Even though I did have braces for a really long time, I liked going to the appointments because I liked watching the orthodontist and the orthodontic assistants change my bands. So I'd like ask for a mirror and I would watch them change the bands. I loved that I got to pick out the colors. And I just thought that it looked super fun. I've always really liked to work with my hands, and I like to do really detailed things and use like fine motor skills. So I just remember always thinking, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to do. I wonder if I could be an orthodontic assistant. So that was kind of the first thing that I thought I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something in dentistry. I thought teeth were really interesting, and so yeah, after I got my braces off and I had, as I had the dental hygiene appointments, regular dental cleanings over the next few years, I found that was really interesting too. And I would ask the dental hygienist questions and kind of finding out more what they do. And I thought that was really interesting. So I decided that instead of orthodontics, that I just wanted to be a dental hygienist. And my senior year of high school, I was actually able to take a dental assisting class, and that was a really neat experience. I was really lucky because my school offered these health profession courses. I think there were like 3 or 4 of them. There was like an EMT class, a sports med class, dental assisting, nursing, I think maybe was one of them. I don't remember. But I was able to do the dental assisting class, and I got to observe at a dental office and actually watch over the dental hygienist's shoulder and see what they do. And I got certified as a dental assistant through that course. And actually in my first and second year of college, I was able to work at 2 dental offices just for a few months at a time, just to kind of get some experience. And that just kind of solidified my passion for teeth and for dentistry, and I was just so excited to be a dental hygienist. So before I talk about where I went to school and about my dental hygiene program specifically, I'll just clarify it really quick. In a dental office, there are dental assistants, dental hygienists, and then the dentist. So dental assistants are not required to, in Idaho at least, dental assistants aren't required to have like college education for the most part. You, like how I did, I was able to take this dental assisting program and get certified, but I didn't have to have like a college degree. It's more, you can be trained on the job in Idaho at least. I know that's not the same for every state, but in Idaho I was able to just be certified in high school and then be trained kind of on the job at those 2 dental offices that I worked at. So dental assistants are responsible for assisting the dentist in restorative procedures. So when you get a filling or a crown or a root canal, dental assistants play a really big part in helping the dentist with those procedures. So they hand the dentist instruments that they need. They prep the room for the procedure. They do a lot of the work with the patient. And then dental hygienists are required to graduate from an accredited program. So you can find dental hygiene schools that are associate degrees, and you can also find dental hygiene schools that offer bachelor degrees. Dental hygienists specifically do the cleaning part of your teeth. So it's, the layman's term is cleaning. It's really called a prophylaxis, and that's scaling the plaque or calculus off of your teeth that kind of builds up over time. They'll educate you about oral health. They'll talk to you about your home care, teach you about how plaque forms and how you can minimize it. They teach you about gum health. They will assess your gum health and also monitor gum disease and bone disease if a patient has that and it's progressing. So I went to Idaho State University, which is in eastern Idaho, and that is the only school in Idaho that offers a bachelor degree in dental hygiene, and I knew that I wanted to complete a 4-year degree. So that's why I decided to go to ISU, and I'm so happy that I did because it was a stinking hard program, but I had so much fun, and I feel like I learned way more than I ever thought I would. So I'm really happy that I did it, and I'm so excited that now I have this 4-year degree. It's a Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene, if you're wondering what the degree name is. Okay, a breakdown of the program here. So to get into the dental hygiene program, there are prerequisite courses that you need to have a pretty good grade in. When you're applying, they look to make sure that you took and passed all of those classes with a really good grade. And then they also look at your cumulative GPA along with your science GPA. So they look at those 2 scores, and then the top 30 to 32 students get in. So of all the applicants that apply for the dental hygiene program, they say there's usually about 60 to 80 or so applicants, and so about 30 of those get in and are accepted into the program. So it's the top 30 with the highest cumulative GPA and science GPA. I applied in December or January and got an acceptance letter in April. So you do 2 years of prerequisites and then 2 years in the program, the total of 4 years. And then the 2 years that you're in the program, your junior and senior year, that's 4 semesters. So junior year, first semester, it's mostly all coursework. There are 2 dental hygiene buildings on the ISU campus. One is a classroom building and one is a clinic building. So in your first semester of your junior year, your first semester in the program, you pretty much spend every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 in the classroom. The classes that you take in your first semester are head and neck anatomy, tooth morphology, dental materials, medical emergencies, embryology, histology. So there's tons and tons of studying and tons of exams. That first semester was so hard because there's just so much new information that you're getting. It is a whole new world, a whole new language, and you pretty much need to learn it all or learn the majority of it in your first semester. So even though the semester was so stressful and it's mostly everyone's least favorite semester, it was probably my favorite one. And I'll talk more about that later, but I actually really love being really organized and studying a lot, and I feel like I'm pretty good at memorization, and so that kind of played to my strengths. And I also think that was my favorite semester because I totally had control over my grade. We'll get into this more in a bit, but by senior year, it feels like you have no control over your grade. So I liked first semester because it was all in my hands, and yeah, that's one of the things I really liked about it. If you're going to dental hygiene school, just know that in your first semester, you're pretty much going to have no time. Really, you'll have no time throughout those whole 2 years. But in that first semester, I took so many notes. I had to retake notes, organize them. To organize my thoughts, I probably made 100 Quizlets, and I also used this like 3D anatomy app a lot because we had to learn all of the 12 cranial nerves, where they go, where they innervate. We had to know what holes they go through in the cranium, and we had to know what each of their jobs were. We had to know if they were afferent, efferent. Oh my gosh, that was just 1 week of head and neck anatomy. So you can imagine what the rest of head and neck anatomy looked like and the rest of the classes. In head and neck anatomy, we also learned the origin and insertion of all of the muscles of the face, the muscles of the tongue, of the neck. It was so crazy, but also so fascinating. Anatomy is 100% my favorite subject. It always has been. I took like 2 anatomy classes in high school, and yeah, I took 2 in college also in my first 2 years of the prereqs, and then so this was my like 3rd or 4th anatomy class. It was really hard, but I really loved it. In our dental materials class, we took bleach tray impressions. We learned how to carve teeth out of wax. We had green wax that we used. We would use like an alcohol torch, and you'd take your instrument, you would take like some pieces of the green wax and you'd melt it above the torch to get it soft, and then you would place it in a fake tooth. So we have a typodont, which is like a fake mouth, and one of the teeth would have a restoration or like a filling prep, and you'd place the wax in the prep and build it up, fill in that hole, and then smooth it out to carve the anatomy of the tooth that you were trying to recreate. So that was so hard at first, but also really fun. We learned about medical emergencies in our embryology class. We learned about the whole formation of a tooth, how the tooth forms in an embryo and what cells the enamel forms from, what cells the dentin forms from, all of that stuff. Oh my gosh, it was so much information. Very fascinating, but I don't know if I remember all of that now. I probably couldn't tell you all the stages now. I don't really know how it's applicable in the clinical dental hygiene setting, but I can see how that would be part of the curriculum to teach you about how the very beginnings of a tooth form. At the beginning of our first semester, we each got our own units, and we worked on each other just for the first semester. So that very first fall semester of junior year, we only worked on each other. So we'd pair up as classmates, and we would learn what each instrument was, what it was for, how to use it. There are so many dental hygiene instruments. So we learned what all of them were. We learned the correct angulation. All of them have different angles that they need to be used at. We learned how to hold them in our hands. There's a very particular way you're supposed to sit, and a particular way in which you're supposed to hold every instrument. There are also very specific places that you need to sit, or that you're encouraged to sit in the dental hygiene chair while you're working on a patient to kind of make the most of, to be the most efficient pretty much, and to protect your body the most. Dental hygiene is a really physical profession. So the way that you sit, the way you hold your instruments, the way you scale with those instruments are all very important, because if you are sitting or using an instrument incorrectly, you could be doing a lot of damage to your wrist, to your hand, to your back, to your neck, that could be avoided or minimized if you sat a different way. By the end of that first semester, also, we had to have poured up a bleach tray model that was made of stone using the alginate impressions that we took on each other. So we would mix up that pink gooey stuff, place it in the impression tray, and place the impression in classmates' mouths. And we'd have to use that impression tray and pour this wet stone into the mold, and once that stone hardens, you can take it out of the tray and kind of sand it down, carve it to the shape it needs to be, and that's what you make bleach trays out of. So at the end of the semester, all of us had to have one perfect model, so a set of top teeth and then a set of bottom teeth. Everyone was so stressed about this because they really had to be perfect, and they're super hard to get perfect. And on the last week of school, mine was ready to go almost. I was just making the finishing touches. I wanted to sand it down a little bit more. I mean, just so you know, the instructors that were looking at it, or that were grading it at the end of the semester, would set it on the counter and put an actual level on the top of the model to make sure that it was level. It was that intense and that ridiculous. So it was very stressful for all of us, and it's really hard to get perfect. So I just wanted to sand it down on one side a little bit more, and I moved it up to the trimmer. So it's like spinning sandpaper kind of. And you just have to be really careful, and you slowly kind of hold it up against that to trim it a little bit. And the whole the whole upper teeth arch broke in half. I tried to glue the teeth back together that were broken off, but it was just too far gone. This was seriously a couple days before the semester was over, and I scrambled to take another impression. I recreated the stone model, and it was such a long process of waiting for the materials to set. There is one material that needs to set for at least an hour, and then another material that sets better overnight. So I'd keep going back into the lab to adjust it. And anyway, lots of things went wrong. It barely turned out. I turned it in at like the end of the last day. So, talk about stress. That's what you can expect in your first semester. But back to what I was saying about how that was my favorite semester. That was my favorite semester, yes, because we were learning all of this crazy stuff. We were all getting to know each other and becoming really good friends as a class. I had total control over my grades because I was able to study really hard and organize and memorize. But it was also my favorite because it was the only whole non-COVID semester. I got so dang lucky with my class. Seriously, 32 best friends. There were 30 girls in my class and 2 boys, those brave souls. And we laughed all the time in clinic together. We would message each other throughout the day, every day on GroupMe. So we would like send memes and inside jokes during class. It was just so much fun. We had group dinners. We had meetings and treats once a month. We would all get together. We were excited to get together with the senior class and meet up with our senior buddies. We got to go to conventions in Blackfoot and Boise. We all traveled to Boise together in that first semester, and it was just so much fun. So second semester of junior year started out really well. It started out with a pinning ceremony, which was a really neat experience. In this pinning ceremony, it was kind of a representation of and a recognition of moving from hygiene students working on each other to becoming clinicians working on patients. And that was a really exciting progression and kind of celebration that we were able to do, because it's kind of, just recognizing the accomplishment of getting into the program, getting through the first semester, learning everything that we could, and being prepared to start working on patients, because in this second semester of junior year, we would start seeing patients. So we had to find all of our own patients, and that was a whole different kind of hell, which I'll also talk about more later. But other than clinic, some of the courses that we had to take that semester in the classroom were pharmacology, radiology, and local anesthesia. Yes, we did have to do injections on each other so many times. That's not the most fun part, but I got so many injections that it just doesn't really bother me anymore, so that's a plus. I actually really enjoy giving local anesthesia injections because I didn't know this, but apparently you can give a local anesthesia injection and have it not hurt. And I had no idea this was even a thing, because from getting shots for fillings when I was younger, it always hurt to get them. And so I just thought, oh, injections just always hurt. But we learned a very specific and important technique to minimize the pain and like the pinching of the injection. And it's so exciting because once you figure out the angle and the depth that you're supposed to go with the needle, you really can focus on injecting the anesthesia slowly. And I have had so many patients say, oh my gosh, I didn't even feel that, or oh, I was so scared about that, but it didn't hurt at all. And that is such a good feeling, because I know that is such a big fear of people's when they go to the dentist. And so if I can help people not be so scared of the dentist and be comfortable while they're receiving injections, then that would just make me so happy. In March of that semester, of course, ISU shut our clinic down. Thanks, COVID. And we finished the rest of the semester online. So we didn't get to complete the patients that we had started seeing in that semester. So we finished the semester online. All of summer, everything, of course, was just up in the air. And then senior year, first semester was different from junior year because, starting in senior year, you spend most of the day in clinic and not really a lot of time in the classroom. We started school a few weeks earlier than ISU started this semester so that we could see the rest of our required patients to officially finish junior year. We couldn't move on to senior year until we completed all of our patient requirements and clinic hours for junior year. And that was extremely stressful and really hard to cram into 3 weeks. So yeah, that was crammed into 3 weeks, a whole second half of a semester. And then the day after we were done with that, we officially started senior year and just jumped right into our senior patient requirements. There were about 12 patients required for our first semester of senior year, or our third semester in the program. It's so hard to find people. So many patients canceled due to COVID. It's so stressful. Senior year was so stressful in a whole different way. Second semester of senior year, so our very last semester, it was pretty much the same. Barely any class time, just clinic. In our last semester of senior year, though, we actually did have a community class and we had to do community projects. That was not a good time. Nobody's saying it. Everybody's thinking it. We had to go on rotations and kind of thank goodness we could do these even with COVID, but also I wish we didn't have to. We did Zoom lessons for elementary schools about oral health. And then we also got to go to a couple elementary schools and apply fluoride and sealants. We also had to volunteer, that's in quotes, because it was against our will, at the COVID vaccine clinic for some of those community hours. And all of the nurses there were grumpy. Nobody wanted us there. We didn't want to be there. So yeah, if you're in dental hygiene school and you have to take a community class, that's just a heads up here. It's not very fun. Also, in the last semester, you have to start studying for the national board exam and you have to screen to find board patients. So for those of you who don't know, to become a dental hygienist, you need to graduate from an accredited program. And then you also have to take and pass a national written board exam. And you also have to pass clinical patient board exams. So I took 5 board exams total. So along with seeing 16 to 18 patient requirements in that final semester, we also had to screen for a boards patient. And the requirements are just so specific. Like for a patient to qualify for this clinical board exam after you graduate, they had to have moderate to heavy plaque or calculus. They had to have like 12 or more pieces of that plaque in one quad. So there are 4 quadrants of the mouth, and in just one quadrant they had to have at least 12 pieces. So you had to go through and count each of them, make sure you had more than 12. That you had to measure their gums, and the patient was not allowed to have more than a 7 millimeter pocket. So you had to measure and make sure all of the teeth and the gums were less than 7 millimeters. They had to have a certain number of teeth in that quadrant. It was a nightmare. I probably did 10 screenings before I finally found the perfect patient. And you're doing screenings and trying to find that boards patient on top of finishing those 16 patient requirements for the actual senior year to graduate from the program. Before the end of the semester, I was able to meet all of my senior requirements to graduate and then also find my boards patient that I would use to take my board exams in June. So thank goodness for that. At the end of this school year, so this April, we were able to have an in-person dental hygiene ceremony to celebrate completing the program. But none of our family was there, which really sucked. We all had to wear masks. All 32 of us were there, but we had to sit distanced. And that was really unfortunate because quite a few of us were vaccinated. We all as a class had made suggestions to our program director, and it just didn't happen the way that we hoped. So that was really disappointing. We did have an in-person ISU graduation the next day, and all of our class did get to walk together, and we got to have a few family members there for the actual school graduation. So we graduated at the end of April, and boards were in June. The 5 board exams that I took were, number 1, the National Board Dental Hygiene Examination. So that's the written exam that is cumulative of all things dental hygiene that you've learned. It's broken down into 2 sections. It's about a 4-hour exam. The first section is all multiple choice, and it is randomized with everyone. You could have a lot of questions about medical emergencies. You could have a lot of questions about nutrition, about anatomy, about tooth morphology. It's just totally random, so you have to know everything. And then the second section of that written exam is patient case studies. So they give you hypothetical patients, tell you all about them, and then you have to answer questions about them and how you would treat them and things like that. So there's that one big national board exam that's written that everybody has to take and pass. And then the other written exam, so exam number 2 that you have to take, is also a written exam, but it's specifically on local anesthesia. So it asks you questions about injection sites for all of the different kinds of injections. It asks you about needle length and gauge and types of anesthesia. It asks you about allergies to anesthetics. It asks you about reactions to different anesthetics and how you would solve that. So it was really specific to local anesthesia and a little bit shorter, quite a bit shorter actually, than the national board. That one was only 1 hour instead of 4. The third exam is the local anesthesia exam, clinical. So you have a patient and you demonstrate 2 injections, and the examiner watches you. They look at your angle, they look at how deep your needle goes, and if you do both of those injections correctly, then you pass that. The fourth exam is the hygiene patient exam. So that one is the one where you screen for a patient with all those specific requirements. And you bring the patient back, and the examiners check the part of the mouth that you submitted for treatment, and check to make sure you do have all of the qualifying calculus, all of the requirements that patient needs to take the exam. And if your patient does qualify, you can move forward with the exam. So the stressful thing about that is, if you think your patient qualifies, you bring them back, the examiner looks and says, no, I don't think they qualify. You're 1 piece short, or you have one place that has 7 millimeters. Then you're out of luck and you need to find another patient because the examiners won't accept that patient. It is ridiculous. And there were a few people that didn't have their patient qualify, and how stressful is that? It's horrible. With that exam, if your patient does qualify, you scale the plaque, the calculus off of their teeth, and you resubmit them to the examiners, and the examiner checks back on the patient to see if you have removed all of the pieces, if you've cleaned their teeth properly. The last board exam of the 5 is the restorative clinical exam, and this is an exam that's optional based on where you live. So in Virginia, dental hygienists cannot do restorative procedures, and so even though I am licensed to do restorative procedures as a dental hygienist, I am not able to practice that in Virginia. However, if I were to live in Washington or Colorado, I could do restorative procedures. So There are some limited places in Idaho where you can do restorative procedures as well, and so I just decided that I wanted to have that because I really do love restorative. So if I lived in a place that I was able to do procedures like that, then I would be excited to have that opportunity. For the restorative board exam, instead of working on a live patient, you work on a typodont, which I mentioned before. It's like a fake mouth. And you have 2 preps of teeth. So there's a tooth on the top and a tooth on the bottom with a bit of the tooth carved out. And you have to use 2 different kinds of filling material. One material on the top, another material on the bottom. And you fill in that prep of the tooth, carve it, shape it to match the anatomy of how the tooth was before it was carved. And this is what you would do if you were placing a filling in a tooth that had a cavity. So those are the 5 board exams. I took the last ones in June. Now that I've passed the 5 board exams, I can submit all of my scores for all of those. I can submit my transcript from ISU and all of that paperwork to the State Board of Dentistry. So you have to submit all of that information to whatever state you're applying for a license for. Once the state board accepts that, then you get a dental hygiene license that has to be renewed every 1 to 2 years. Okay, we're getting to the end here. To finish up, I'm just going to answer a couple questions that I got. The first question was about pricing, just kind of how much dental hygiene school costs, what to expect. So dental hygiene school is very expensive, just because of all of the materials that you need. Of course, it will depend on the program that you're in, but this is kind of what my experience was. First of all, you have to purchase scrubs. You can find scrubs pretty cheap, and I actually bought mine from a past senior. She passed hers down to me, so I bought those from her, and then you also have to buy lab coats. Another thing you have to purchase is loupes. Loupes are magnifying lenses that you wear to be able to see more closely and clearly in the mouth. So they look kind of like glasses, but they have little magnification lenses on the bottom that stick out a little bit, and they magnify what you're looking at. So when you wear loupes, they are a lifesaver. You can sit up straight and just barely tilt your chin down just a little bit, and the magnification lenses will magnify so that the teeth in the mouth, when you're looking at the patient, they look like they're really up close to you, so you don't have to kind of crane your neck, strain your back at all, trying to look in the patient's mouth, because you're able to see through this magnification. Everyone was required to buy loupes, and they were about $1,500. That was ouch, but they're very high quality and they should last for a super long time. And I could not live without them. So that was a good investment. There are instrument kits that you also have to purchase. This is for the dental hygiene program at ISU specifically, but from what I've heard, this is fairly similar to other programs. You have to purchase an instrument kit, one for junior year and then a second instrument kit for senior year. I think the one for junior year was about $4,500. We got tons of instruments, tons of materials, actually way more than we needed. Same for senior year. So that is a little bit frustrating because the instructors and the program director come together and decide what is necessary, what's needed in the instrument kits, and what every student will need. And then every student has to pay that same amount, and it's just a set amount for you to get everything that they think you'll need for that 1 year in the program. After you get that instrument kit, then all of the things are yours. So you keep everything. So I think one was $4,500 junior year, and I think for senior year is about $2,000. I think it was around there. Lots of dental hygiene schools have program fees. So to give you an idea, ISU's tuition per semester is $4,000, and then the program fee is $1,200 per semester. So this is just a fee for being in a professional program, which is just crazy. I think it's just for us being able to use the clinic on campus. It's really ridiculous, if you ask me. We, as a class, have done our fair share of complaining. So being in the program each semester was $5,200 about. So I highly recommend working part-time in your years before the program to save up if you can. Federal aid, scholarships, and loans really helped me through the program. Also, I worked through the first semester, but I was unable to after that. It's very difficult to find time to work. Another question I got was about patient requirements and how to find patients. As I mentioned before, each of us were required to provide all of our own patients. So we had patient requirements that we had to meet, but we had to bring them all in. So in oral health, there are different stages of gum disease. There's healthy, gingivitis, which is inflammation of the gums, and then there are levels of bone loss or periodontitis. So we had to have at least 6 patients with some kind of bone loss or gum disease per semester in senior year. So some of these patients also had to have certain types of calculus or plaque deposits for them to count for us. We were also required to see a geriatric patient and a child patient every semester. We had to have experience treating patients with special needs, patients who are medically complex, and patients who are culturally diverse. We were required to find a patient each semester who was a candidate for whitening trays, and we had to fabricate those ourselves in the lab from start to finish. We were also required to find certain patients who needed specific types of x-rays, and then we also needed to find patients who needed fillings. I found patients by reaching out to old friends on campus, classmates that I had had before I started the program. I also walked around campus and asked random people to be my patient. That was very scary. I talked to people I went to church with, and some of them came and were my patients, and my family members also drove all the way from Boise, and then I also had family drive from Idaho Falls to be my patients. Sometimes I would talk to people at the store and ask them if they needed their teeth cleaned. I also posted all the time on Facebook. I posted on the Nextdoor app and Craigslist. Finding patients was the absolute worst and hardest part of dental hygiene school. I just talked to a hygienist that's at the office I'll be working at. I talked to her the other day, and she said all of her patients were scheduled for her. That blew my mind. That would have taken so much stress and tears away from all of us in the dental hygiene program if we did not have to find our own patients. At the ISU program, we were even docked points on our clinic grade if we had more than 2 days of open chair time in our last 2 semesters. So overwhelming. That is so much to put on every student. The dental hygiene program is already hard enough, and so us having to find our own patients just, oh my gosh, adds a whole another level of stress. I cried more in dental hygiene school than I have ever cried before. I would fill my clinic days weeks in advance, and I would try my best to stay ahead, keep my schedule filled, but I would have patients cancel the night before or the morning of. Multiple times I would have a patient scheduled to come in at 8, and then at 8:10 they would text me and say that they actually didn't want to come, or a patient scheduled at 1 p.m. wouldn't show up, and I would wait till 1:05, I would wait till 1:10, I would try to call them and never got an answer. So when I would have a patient not show up, my heart would just drop, and I would have to scramble for the rest of the clinic session to try to fill my seat so that my grade wouldn't drop. That was such a scary thing. I actually had 2 patients that I had to excuse from being seen at the clinic because they canceled or no-showed more than 3 times. So patients were just so unreliable, especially with COVID. I mean, even before COVID, they were unreliable for the most part. I mean, people that you knew generally would show up for you, but I saw so many strangers that I didn't know, and I would get them scheduled. They'd seem excited to come in, and then I would just never hear from them. And I'm like, bro, that is my grade that you are messing with. Please help me out. Oh, terrible. I'm so glad I never have to find patients again. Another question I got is, what was the best day of dental hygiene school? This is a hard question because I definitely feel like there are some good ones. There are definitely more bad ones, but of the good ones, probably the best day was the day that we finally were all back together in the classroom after COVID. And that was in November of 2020. So we hadn't all been together as a class, all 32 of us, and seen each other since March. So for us to all be in the classroom on campus, in the classroom that we spent so much time in together and bonded together in our first year, to have us all be back in that classroom, everyone is in the same room together, and that was just like the most amazing feeling. Like, it made me tear up, I remember, because I was like, these are my people, like I just love them so much, and we were all there and we were all going through it together, and yeah, that was just so special. Probably another best day was choreographing a dance with Aurora, shout out to you, girl, my favorite stand-up comedian. We choreographed a dance to All I Want for Christmas Is You in clinic while wearing our lab coats. It was in first semester. We were trying to cheer everyone up because it was almost Christmas break, and our hygiene instructors, I think a handful of them were like running late, and so we were just waiting for clinic to start, and we were trying to hype everyone up and just make everyone laugh. So we did an impromptu dance to All I Want for Christmas Is You on our clinic wing, at the end of the wing, just in the middle of our units, and we went hard, and it was so fun. That was a really fun day too. That was a good memory. And yes, I do have video proof. I'll have to post it. I'm thinking she and I could go on the road together and make another career out of it. All right, another question that I got was floss then brush or brush and then floss. I would love to do an episode answering all of your dental questions someday. So here's a little sneak peek. The answer is, it doesn't matter as long as you floss. Flossing is essential because when you brush, your toothbrush bristles cannot reach all the way in between your teeth. They just can't. So even if you brush every single day, morning and night, you will not be able to get all of the bacteria and the plaque out of your teeth if you don't floss. So what flossing does is it gets in between your teeth in the smallest cracks that you cannot reach, and it gets out all of the debris. It cleans all of the area in between your teeth so that you have no food or buildup in those smaller areas that can weaken the enamel on your teeth and cause cavities, and also so that it doesn't irritate your gums and cause gum disease. If you're not flossing every day, here is your sign. Floss every day. Personally, I brush and then I floss. I feel like I brush all the biofilm off, all the food, clean my teeth, and then flossing kind of touches up all the spots in between my teeth that I might have missed with my toothbrush. But if you floss first, it pushes out all the stuff between your teeth, and then when you brush, it brushes it all away. So actually, both are good. The last question is, was it worth it? I'm still waiting to find out. No, I'm just kidding. I think yes, because I made 30 best friends that I have a connection with unlike anyone else. We went through the toughest 2 years together, and it's only us that knows what that feels like and what we went through, and doing something that hard together and helping each other and being there to support each other, and knowing that you have people going through the same thing is just like such a comfort. And everyone was just so willing to help each other. We had to laugh about the things that were just so terrible. If nothing else came out of it, I made 30 best friends, and that's so worth it. But also, I pushed myself harder than I ever thought I could, and there was so much growth that I had personally in those 2 years that I'm definitely happy that I did it. I hope you enjoyed this episode about my dental hygiene school experience. I will keep posting new episodes every Monday, and again, message me on Instagram for episode requests or questions that you have for me. Thanks for listening to Traffic Jam, and don't worry, you're not the only one who thinks salad is not delicious. It's actually pretty gross. Okay, bye.